What if immortality isn't just a fantasy? What if ancient texts hold the story of a man who achieved it, not as a frozen relic, but as a hidden guide walking among us for centuries? A being who sees past, present, and future all at once. Khidr, or Al-Khidr, is not a personal name in the conventional sense. It is a title, an epithet derived from the Arabic root Khidr, which means green. In the arid landscapes where his legend first bloomed, green was not just a color, it was the ultimate symbol of life, vitality, renewal, and the divine mercy that brings forth water and vegetation from the barren earth. To be the Green One is to be a perpetual source of this life-giving force. It signifies a wisdom that is ever fresh, never stagnant or decaying. It connects him directly to the natural world, to the hidden, sustaining pulse of the planet. In many folk traditions, he is depicted wearing green garments or appearing in a glow of green light. He is associated with lush oasis in the desert, with the sudden appearance of vegetation where there was none, acting as a literal sign of hope and salvation for those who are lost. This foundational symbolism is key to understanding his role, not as a distant god, but as an accessible, ever-present manifestation of divine grace within the physical world. The most authoritative and detailed account of Khidr, the one that anchors his entire legend, is found in the Quran, in chapter 18, Surah Al-Kahf, or the Cave. This chapter is itself a profound exploration of esoteric knowledge, tests of faith, and divine mysteries. The story is presented as a narrative told by the Prophet Muhammad, and it involves one of the greatest prophets in history, Moses. Moses is a figure synonymous with law, justice, and direct communication with God. He is the embodiment of exoteric knowledge, the clear, black and white law delivered on the tablets of Sinai. The Quran recounts that Moses, in his deep wisdom, once declared that no one on earth had been granted more knowledge than himself. This was not a statement of arrogance, but rather an assessment based on his unparalleled experience. However, God immediately revealed to Moses that this was not the case. He informed Moses that there existed a servant among his servants, to whom he had granted a different kind of knowledge, a knowledge from his presence, a direct, intuitive, and hidden wisdom that Moses did not possess. Intrigued, humbled, and driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, Moses asked how he could find this extraordinary servant. God instructed him to journey to the confluence of the two seas, a mystical and metaphorical location, often interpreted as the meeting point of the known and the unknown, the exoteric and the esoteric, the material and the spiritual. Moses sets out on his quest, accompanied by a young servant, often identified in commentary as Joshua. God provided them with a sign. They were to carry a dried fish in a basket. When they reached the correct location, the fish would miraculously come back to life and leap into the water. After a long and weary journey, Moses and his servant stopped to rest. Unbeknownst to Moses, at that very spot, the fish revived and sprang into the sea. The servant witnessed this incredible event, but perhaps, out of shock or distraction, forgot to immediately tell Moses. After they had resumed their travel, the servant then remembered and exclaimed, "Did you see, when we rested by the rock, indeed I forgot the fish, and none made me forget to mention it, except Satan, and it made its way into the sea in an amazing way." Moses immediately realized this was the sign they had been waiting for. "That is what we were seeking," he declared, and they hastily retraced their steps to the place where the rock stood. It was there, at that liminal space between two realities, that Moses encountered him. He found Khidr. The Quran describes him simply as a servant from among our servants, to whom we had given mercy from us, and had taught him knowledge from our presence. Moses, eager to learn, approached him and said, "May I follow you so that you may teach me some of the knowledge of guidance you have been taught?" Khidr's response is the first crucial lesson. He does not immediately welcome him. Instead, he offers a profound warning, setting the terms for everything that is to follow. He said, Indeed, you will not be able to have patience with me, and how can you be patient about that which you cannot encompass in knowledge? This statement is the core of the entire mystery. Khidr is telling Moses that the knowledge he possesses operates on a completely different framework. It is not logical or linear. It cannot be encompassed or understood through reason alone, because it involves acting upon information from the unseen, the future, divine decrees, and outcomes hidden from mortal eyes. Moses, the man of law and order, is being asked to suspend his entire judgment system. Undeterred, Moses promises, "You will find me, if God wills, patient, and I will not disobey you in any order." Khidr finally agrees, but lays down the ultimate condition: "Then if you follow me, do not ask me about anything until I myself mention it to you." So their journey together begins. The three events that follow form the heart of the mystery and the proof of Khidr's unique time-traveling knowledge. First, they board a small, humble fishing boat. After setting sail, Khidr suddenly begins to damage the vessel, pulling planks loose and scuttling it. Imagine the scene from Moses' perspective. This righteous guide, whom he is supposed to learn from, is deliberately destroying the property of poor, innocent fishermen, seemingly condemning them to ruin and potentially endangering their lives. Moses' moral and legal compass is immediately violated. He cannot contain himself. "Have you scuttled it to drown its passengers?" he cries out. "You have certainly done a grievous thing." Khidr's reply is not an explanation, but a reminder of their contract. "Did I not say that you would not be able to have patience with me?" Moses, embarrassed, apologizes. "Do not blame me for what I forgot," he says, and he pleads for them to continue. They journey on until they encounter a young boy playing innocently. Without any warning or provocation, Khidr kills the child. To Moses and to any rational observer, this is an act of pure, unforgivable evil, the murder of an innocent horrified. Moses exclaims, "Have you killed a pure soul who had not killed anyone? You have certainly done a deplorable thing." Once again, Khidr does not justify the action. He simply holds up a mirror to Moses' promise. "Did I not tell you that you would not be able to have patience with me?" This time, Moses is even more shaken. The breach is more severe. He makes a final desperate promise: "If I ask you about anything after this, then do not keep me in your company. You have already received an excuse from me." They continue until they enter a town. The people there are inhospitable and refuse to offer them any food or shelter. Despite this rejection, as they walk through the town, they find a wall that is on the verge of collapse. Instead of leaving the ungrateful people to their problem, Khidr sets to work, rebuilding the wall and making it sound and strong. For Moses, this is the final straw. After the hostility they faced, this act of unpaid charity for people who deserved no help, following the previous two terrifying acts, shatters his last resolve. He cannot see any possible hidden wisdom here. "If you had wished," Moses says, "you could have taken payment for it." This third question breaks their pact irrevocably. Khidr turns to him and announces their parting, but now he will fulfill his side of the agreement. He will explain the hidden reality, the future knowledge that justified each seemingly monstrous act. He says, "This is the parting between you and me. I will inform you of the interpretation of that which you could not bear with patience." He then reveals the breathtaking truth. First, the boat. It belonged to poor fishermen. Just downstream was a tyrannical king who was confiscating every serviceable boat by force, taking away the livelihoods of these vulnerable men. By damaging the boat, Khidr made it appear unseaworthy and worthless. This act of apparent vandalism was in fact an act of profound protection. It saved the boat from seizure. Once the king's men had passed, the fishermen could easily repair the minor damage and retain their sole means of survival. Khidr had acted on knowledge of a future event, the arrival of the confiscating king, to alter the present. Second, the boy. Khidr knew through knowledge granted by God the boy's horrific future. This child was destined to grow up into a wicked, rebellious man who would lead his righteous, believing parents into disbelief, ingratitude, and utter misery. His continued life would have caused immense spiritual and emotional suffering. His death, as shocking and brutal as it was a mercy. In his place, God would grant the parents another child, one who would be pure, loving, and righteous, bringing them joy, faith, and comfort. Khidr had acted on knowledge of a future timeline, a future of suffering, and intervened in the present to create a better, more merciful future for the parents. Third, the wall. Beneath it was a treasure, an inheritance of gold and silver, belonging to two young orphan boys who lived in the town. Their righteous father had hidden it there to protect their future livelihood. If the wall had collapsed, the treasure would have been exposed to the elements, and more importantly, to the greedy and hostile townspeople, who would have surely stolen it. By restoring the wall free of charge, Khidr ensured it remained hidden and structurally protected until the orphans came of age and were strong enough to claim their inheritance rightfully. He acted on knowledge of a hidden past, the father's action, and a potential future, the theft of the treasure, to ethically intervene in the present. Each action was a surgical strike in the timeline of cause and effect. Moses saw only the immediate localized action and judged it by the law. Khidr saw the entire tapestry of past, present, and future simultaneously and acted as an agent of divine mercy within that broader canvas. This is the essence of his time travel. It is not travel in a mechanical sense, but an existence within a state of knowledge, where time is not a linear constraint. This encounter naturally leads to the question of origin. How did Khidr attain this? The Quran is silent on his backstory, but Islamic tradition and exegesis, tafsirs, are rich with narratives. One prominent story identifies him as a righteous and knowledgeable servant of a powerful king, often named as the mythical king Dhu-el-Qarnayn, associated with Alexander the Great. In this narrative, Khidr is a royal advisor who accompanies the king on his journeys. Another, more mystical origin story is his quest for the water of life, Abi Hayat, or Ain al-Hayat. This is a universal myth, akin to the fountain of youth. The story tells that the prophet Abraham prayed that someone would remain on earth as a witness to God's truth. In response, God led Khidr to the water of life, which was hidden in the land of darkness. He drank from its waters, and thus, by God's will, attained immortality. This immortality is not a curse of endless wandering, but a sacred vocation. He became the eternal witness, the perennial guide. His story does not end with Moses. This encounter is simply his most famous dossier. His immortality means his case file is still open, with sightings and interactions reported across the globe and throughout history. In Sufism, the mystical dimension of Islam, Khidr is the ultimate spiritual guide, the archetypal Sufi master. Countless Sufi saints and poets, from Ibn Arabi to Rumi, have written about their mystical encounters with him. He is the one who initiates seekers onto the path without formal instruction, appearing in dreams or visions to impart wisdom. He is the patron saint of wanderers and mystics. Beyond the mystical realm, his legend permeates folk traditions. Sailors in the Indian Ocean tell stories of a green-robed figure appearing on the bow of a ship during a storm, guiding them to safety before vanishing. Travelers lost in the deserts of Arabia and North Africa speak of an old man who leads them to an oasis and then disappears without a trace. In the mountains of Central Asia and the Balkans, similar figures appear in local folklore, always as a helper in extreme distress. He is the master of disguise. He appears as a beggar, a warrior, a scholar, a simple farmer. His constant is his function, to test, to guide, to help, and to impart knowledge at the precise moment it is needed. He represents the divine intervention that operates just outside the periphery of normal perception. He is the answer to the prayer you haven't yet uttered, the help that arrives from nowhere. The complete story of Khidr is more than a religious narrative. It is a profound philosophical exploration. He challenges our most fundamental assumptions about justice, morality, and he forces us to confront the limitations of our own perception and to acknowledge that there may be a higher wisdom operating in the world, one that often seems incomprehensible from our limited vantage point. He is a symbol of hope, that guidance is always available, that mercy is always present, even in forms we might initially reject or fear. He is the green shoot that persistently breaks through the cracks in the pavement of our rigid understanding, reminding us that life, wisdom, and divine grace are always breaking through. His story is ultimately an invitation to cultivate patience, to trust in a larger plan,
and to remain open to the possibility that the stranger you meet on the road just might be a traveler from beyond the veil of time itself.